Queensland Premier has weighed into the cost of living debate, demanding the Reserve Bank immediately cut interest rates. Let's bring in Trudy McIntosh live in the studio. And this is quite something, isn't it? From the federal political view, we don't see governments tell the RBA or encourage the RBA to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Queensland Premier not constrained by such limitations.
Yeah, certainly not. And it's the very populist thing to say, isn't it? Lots of people don't want to see any more rate rises and they'd like to see interest rates slash now. So Stephen Miles, with a state election later this year, very happy it seems to weigh into this territory. This was no accident, it's clear now. He tweeted earlier this morning that he wants to see the Reserve Bank slash interest rates now, seizing on yesterday's better than expected inflation numbers, that annual number has now come down to 4.1%. It's still outside the target range that the Reserve Bank is looking for. So all economists you speak to say don't hold your breath that we're going to see at next week's first meeting of the year of the central bank a cut. But this didn't seem to trouble Stephen Miles, doubling down on this when asked, is it irresponsible to be publicly providing this advice to the Reserve Bank?
Well, it's an independent body, but that doesn't mean I can't have an opinion on its decisions. And my job is to be on the side of Queenslanders. Now that inflation has turned a corner, they should act just as quickly to cut rates as they did to increase rates. There is no rule that says the banks can't cut rates in advance of the RBA. They put the rates up before the RBA did, so they can cut them before the RBA does.
It's certainly something we're beginning to see more often. We saw it as the interest rate hike cycle was intensifying in the middle of last year. Daniel Andrews, the then Victorian Premier, willing to attack the RBA. He said they were smashing families at the time and said it wasn't the right way to tackle inflation. Now Stephen Miles, in a similar context, willing to talk very publicly and give this advice to the Reserve Bank. A difficult scenario for Anthony Albanese. Politically, it might be popular to say this, but for the Prime Minister, it's not something he can do, provide any sort of public guidance to the Reserve Bank Governor about what they should do on rates. This was the PM.
It says the Reserve Bank needs to start cutting interest rates now to take pressure on households, and the banks should cut their rates first without even waiting for the RBA. Do you hold that view?
Well, the Reserve Bank of Australia are an independent body and the government doesn't direct them on what to do.
Economists and money markets are factoring that we could see 2 interest rate cuts over the course of this year. A debate raging this morning as to whether the impact of the Stage 3 tax cut changes could delay or hamper the timeframe of when the Reserve Bank is looking at making those cuts. In that context, we heard from Peter Dutton on 2GB this morning. He's sceptical that we're going to see interest rate relief in the short term, taking a free swipe at Jim Chalmers.
I think at the moment, Jim Chalmers is on this crusade to, be Robin Hood. And in the end, all they do is kill aspiration, investment. I hope interest rates come down soon, but they've spent a lot of money, which has kept them higher for longer. And when they get in, they always damage and wreck the economy. And that's exactly the path we're on at the moment.
Peter Dutton there talking to Ray Hadley on 2GB. As for the Greens, so we've discussed that from the coalition side, but on the other side of the spectrum, you've got the Greens wanting Labor to go further in terms of reducing tax relief at the higher end, but if in return, if they don't do that, they want their pound of flesh in other ways.
There's certainly a long laundry list, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't hear more demands as we head towards the start of Parliament next week. They're not going to be in a sudden rush to get this through Parliament. The Greens even are publicly floating they want to kick this off to a committee, so it could be some time before we actually see either the Coalition or the Greens declare their hand one way or another if they're going to back these Stage 3 tax cut changes unamended in the upper house. Adam Bandt now saying he wants to see more money for JobSeeker, not surprising there. A change to the tax-free threshold, the amount that kicks in, putting dental into Medicare, that would cost a huge amount of money. The PM seems to be getting a little bit sick of it today, basically implying he's not going to be horse trading on it.
But what we won't be doing is trading across different issues. We're focused on this. This stands on its merits.
The politics of this are fascinating, Kieran. When you talk about what the government's considering, it's a long way to the May budget. But if they are thinking about doing JobSeeker an increase, that wouldn't be off the cards. We heard that from Katie Gallagher this morning. Always wanting to talk about doing more, looking at ways to support those at the lower end. They want it to be their idea. They don't want to be seen to be pushed there by the Greens.
Yeah, if they get there, they want to own it. Trudy, thanks so much.